trouble, sir. I don't wish to be in. I mean, yeah, maybe I'm feeling a little bit tender, a little bit paranoid, to be perfectly frank, Henrik, because I have been in trouble this week, and I don't like being in trouble with the forces of law and order. That is the last thing I like.
Sure.
And yet, nonetheless, I keep speaking out and saying these things and talking about esteemed statesmen like Mr. Anthony Charles Blair as being practicing Satanists. Eventually, when you can keep on doing that, you're going to get in trouble, aren't you? So I don't, I absolutely do not. Of course, I don't talk about. I don't encourage physical violence. I don't actually believe. Of course, violence is only going to engender more. Ultimately, isn't it? Violence is only going to. Of course, it is. Of course, it is. Of course, it is. I throw the question back to you, and I ask, how can we transmute this energy into something positive? It can be done.
Well, exactly.
It can be done.
Well, exactly. That is the question, and that's what we're here and trying to figure out, I guess. And I think that on one level, it is about that idea that the more you focus on something, or the more energy you give to something, an idea, a concept, or whatever, that is. I think that the human thought and emotional state is a very powerful thing that is being harnessed or used to a certain degree, and in that case I have to agree with Jake, if I interpret what he's saying correctly, that the more we kind of focus on that this is a very dark side, and the more we kind of actually, well, not maybe fear them, but we're all of the time giving that idea energy that we are in some way, that they are more powerful than we are, and that they are more they can't be beaten down easily, and it feels like then we're giving away more and more power all the time to that idea, and I think that the entire process of what we're dealing with here is that we have to learn that we are the ones in control of this, and no matter how much they are trying to scare us, no matter how much they're trying to, they're evoking all the time us for, our energy, so to speak. They want that because that's what are keeping them alive,
Sure.
I don't know. Jake, do you have any thoughts on this here at this point?
Yeah, I would just like to talk about like the skull and bones and, the dark forces out there. I see it as, Brahman the eternal, the one thing that we're all split up in and we're convinced is us. It's all these individual characters that Brahman plays. We can make it simpler. We can say it's a movie, We are playing out this movie. And in the movie, there is a plot, there is a story, there are characters, and some of them are for tension, to make it interesting, to make it worth watching, to make it a good movie. There are bad guys who seem always, up in the third act to have the upper hand, and then dramatically the hero comes and he saves the day, right? I mean, that's dramatic tension. That makes the movie worth watching. That makes the game worth playing for Brahman. And but if you identify the force that animates the movie as a bad force, in other words, you're saying it's an evil director or an evil scriptwriter, then yes, the whole thing will look like a horribly despicable thing. But if you identify with somebody or a force underneath that's creating the entire movie, no matter how dark it seems, or no matter how many wars or evil things are happening in the movie, if you actually realize that this is a writer who is trying to take you through a fascinating journey where at the end we all learn a wonderful message, then you get more how I interpret these bad forces. Yes, they're supposed to look like they're, that we can't beat them, or that they're huge and that they're in control of everything. That makes the game, that's what takes in Brahman and allows the game to continue. But we are going to wake up soon, and this is why I think things are getting so weird. And
I absolutely hope we are going to wake up soon, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't say we're not going to, because that that would be self-defeating. But, the only thing I would say about talking about games and game theory and so forth, and talking about directors and movies, is that actually what we are talking about are human beings who are being butchered, being burnt alive, who are being bombed, who are dying in agony in places like Afghanistan and places like Gaza. Why? All for the sake of this dark New World Order. Now, I understand that we, in the West, are more than capable, aren't we, of sort of taking a step back and rationalising it and being deeply philosophical and sort of and sounding sort of quite spiritually sort of grooved out about it all. But right there on the thick end of it, I think it's an entirely different proposition.
I don't know. I feel like the body or your identity sort of determines how scary you find these things. Like, if you believe that all you are is flesh and blood, then yes, something like a war, something like disease, something like, pain inflicted on your person becomes very scary and very potentially threatening and being put in prison. But if you actually realize that you are the animating force underneath all of that, then there's nothing absolutely that can threaten you, because the only thing that can threaten you is something that's coming from the same animating force. And therefore, war, jail, all that stuff becomes to people like Gandhi, to all these spiritually enlightened people, absolutely nothing, because it does not threaten the true self, which is underneath and beyond flesh, which no force, dark, diabolical, Illuminati, anything, war, nothing can threaten that thing underneath, the thing that you truly are, and is actually, is creating all these seeming obstacles, but which are probably from a higher perspective, or at least from a perspective further away, less emotionally involved, actually part of this developing of consciousness and bringing it into focus. So I don't think that the body, I think that being so afraid of them killing us, of them locking us up, is one of the prisons which allows them to do this. If we realize we are not our bodies, then it becomes not at all a threat. Then they can't lock you up, they can't control you, because there is nothing for them to control. We are that which is beyond things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I am afraid of them doing it. Believe you me, I'm more than afraid of physical pain and imprisonment. And yet, you see, unlike you, without wanting to get personal about it anyway, because obviously I'm not, but I'm desperately afraid of those things, and yet I've actually, in some ways, admitted that it's inevitable, simply because I have my line in the sand, and I'm not willing to cross it for the sake of some hair splitting, some philosophical Eastern hair splitting. Okay, I will say if I think something is wrong, if I think something is blacker than black, and I'm looking down the barrel of a New World Order, and I'm saying that, my friend, stinks. I'm not having it.
So, are we down to that kind of idea that this is a theological or a religious or even spiritual question of what is a human? What is it that we are experiencing? What is our purpose here? I mean, what we're talking about here is if we look at it from a religious kind of viewpoint, then that if everything if we look at it from an atheist viewpoint, that's what I'm going to say. That all we is flesh and bone. We're nothing else. Then this experience here becomes very how should I put it? Every life, every single thing is very important, and obviously in a spiritual worldview that is still the case. But what I'm saying is that if you have another religious philosophy behind this, that you have an idea or a concept that you are maybe here for several lives, or that you are living more lives or beyond in heaven or whatever, is this kind of where we're confronted with now, this simple idea that again, this is the eternal play going on, and for people that might not have this more spiritual side to it, this reality can become a nightmare and almost a hell very soon, as you start to realize what the heck is going on all around you. Right. But if we have a spiritual side of ourselves that we recognize that, okay, we're probably going to live on longer, then this is not so how should I put it, not so troublesome in that instance. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, well, so thank you, but I believe that we're going to live on. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever, But nonetheless, that does not excuse or in any way abdicate our responsibility.
Sure. Of course.
For this present incarnation, for this matrix. So far as we see it, I know it's all an illusion, Jake. I know it's all a dream. I know that ultimately my body and these things don't matter. I know that this force is and will be transmuted into good ultimately, because it cannot be any other way. It is against natural law. It is against everything. It is against basic human logic. And yet, it ain't going to stop me from doing, that ain't going to stop me from doing everything I can in my power, which is not a great deal, but I'm still going to do everything I can to ensure that it registers the fact that it may have the soul and the being of everybody else, right? It will never have mine. It will never have mine.
Then I think that you do have a lot of power to do something about it, and I don't think that you should not say that you don't have the power, because again I think that at least that's my idea here, that what I want to express, and
sure, thank you.
That every single one of us can make a huge difference, and Jake mentioned Gandhi before. I mean, there are people that are coming to this planet in one form or another, and they change things radically because of their either what they believe or what they focus on doing or accomplishing in this world. And I think you're absolutely right to do follow your path, and I think that this is what it's all about. It's following your own path and finding your path. Foremost, that's the most important idea. Jake, do you have something you want to interject here?
Sure. Yeah. It's that who you are. That's sort of the key question. And I mean, it's not something that you can just in a few sentences give people a sense of. Somebody's going to have a spiritual moment sitting here listening to this, but it is possible. But I'm just saying that your identity, it's the key. It's the point of everything that's happening around us right now. It's how we perceive ourselves and the world around us, and how this thing interacts. It's literally what the whole thing is about. It's what all the conspiracies, all the wars, everything is about. Our identity and our perception, and physical matter, and how identified, how consumerist and materialist and rationalist we are. How addicted to thought, addicted to goods, and all these things, that seem so overwhelming, and we're so hypnotized by them. This is exactly why there's this conflict, all this anger, all this, negative energy out there, is because we're misidentified. We believe we are the thoughts, and we believe we are the objects. So we believe we are the words running through our minds, and we believe we are the objects in our three-dimensional world. And because we believe this lie, we are in such pain because we're misidentified with the reality underneath that, the God, the Brahman, or not, Brahman is actually the facets, but whatever. I'm just trying to say that you're the thing beyond the things, right? It's this thing that if you try and give it a word, people always hang on to it, and then there's a new thing for people to hang on to, and then they never realize that all God is always trying to point to, or the Tao, is that it's not matter, it's not reality, it's not thought, it's what's beyond. That is what you truly are. You are beyond form, you are beyond thought. And we are having to learn that. If we can't do it, if we can't accept it because we're afraid of the reality, then it will be torn from us. Our flesh, the planet will be torn from us, and our true nature will emerge like an egg, like a cosmic egg hatching. But if we just realize that because of the internet and knowledge being spread, then we will have a pleasant, happy transition. But when you see a birth, McKenna would say this, if you see a birth, it looks violent, there's lots of blood, it looks like the end of the world if you didn't know what it was, if you didn't know this is the creation of life. And we are not born, is the thing. We are blind, we have such a small sliver of an idea of the potential. And
so Jake, what you're saying here also is that all the blood and gore that is happening on this planet right now, and all the wars and all of this crap, this is a process that we have to go through.
this is what the awakening of consciousness looks like. It looks bloody and violent.